Hey, Dustin, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Hey, Brian, happy to be here. Thank you for having me. So I started in sales pretty at a pretty young age, I would say. I actually went to college for music, did not graduate, but then I moved to Nashville to pursue a music career further, and in the process, got a job selling life insurance. So that was an experience. Kind of a That's a tough thing to sell, kind of morbid.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so that opened my eyes to the world of sales, the skill, how valuable it is. Um, and then from there, at about the age of 20, 19 or so, I moved to Pennsylvania and started at a company called FSIP Electronics. And so what we do is we sell forklift parts. So whether it be anything on the forklift, so it could be uh, the charger, the electronic control, and then also like industrial battery testing and reconditioning machines. And that's like the high ticket item that we demo and we sell. So I focused on that. But uh, yeah, so I started as a technician, learned the technical side of it, and they gave me a shot in sales and uh, put up some numbers, and it kind of went
Good.
from there. So,
Well, let's start with the music. What was the
okay.
instrument and why college versus just
Well, yeah, I never thought I would get into college, honestly. I was did not have good grades in high school
yeah.
whatsoever. Barely graduated, but my primary instrument is drum set, and then I do play a little bit of keys. Um, and yeah, so I applied to this school thinking, there's no way I'll get in. This is like the top school, and ended up getting an audition and got in. So, uh,
And did any of the music practice or mindset or whatever transfer into sales? Or was it, don't know, didn't matter?
um, well, I mean, I guess if you look at it in sales and as kind of an art, I don't know if that's going too far, but kind of perfecting your craft in that way. So,
Well, there's certainly rehearsal.
correct, yeah.
And when you're playing, you have to put yourself in the audience's seat, right? Just
Yes,
otherwise you're
yeah.
playing for yourself.
Yeah, so you don't, if you're playing in an ensemble and
There's
all
a
you hear is
rhythm,
yourself, you're doing something wrong. So yeah, there's
timing.
a exactly. You want to, uh, you want to add to the song. You don't want to just be, you
Noise.
know, noise. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can play all these notes, but it may not be best for the song.
And a conversation is kind of a rhythm, right? There's questions and answers, there's pauses and
Correct.
clarifications.
Yeah.
So I think music and sales have a lot of corollaries that people don't really appreciate. And there seems to be a lot of people in sales with musical
Mhm.
backgrounds.
Yeah. No, I've noticed that too. But yeah, there are a lot of similarities, especially the rehearsal part. I didn't really think about that. If you have a presentation of some sort, or being able to improvise, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
So and
And
off the
even the
cuff.
mindset of quality,
Mhm.
because not every musician or song or performance is equal, right?
That's true. Yep.
And the nuances are pretty subtle sometimes.
Yeah. Being able to pick up on those little nuances and add in those little, we call them ghost notes, or little things that add to the music that the listener might not even notice, but it adds to the whole
Yeah.
song.
And what do you like about sales?
I would say, yeah, I like the ability to kind of choose your own path, I guess,
Yeah.
or determine, how successful you want to be. I also I enjoy the fact that it's applicable in most other aspects of life. Uh, I read also read Chris Voss. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
uh, his negotiation book, and he compared it to like putting your kids to bed as a negotiation as well. And so you can use these same tactics to convince them that now is bedtime, and so stuff like that. And it's a valuable skill to have
Yeah.
in all aspects of life. So
And what part of it is your strongest characteristic? What part of the sales process are you the best at?
yeah, some people are better openers, some people are better closers. I like to think I'm a decent opener, and but I would say my skill set is in the closing aspect of it. At first, it was not. When I first started, I've had a lot to learn, um, getting to the point of purchase order and invoice. You know,
Yeah.
getting to the point of getting paid. Uh, that was harder than I expected it to be at first. So I've grown a lot there, and it's grown to be probably the what I most enjoy about the sales process.
What do you do differently than others?
Um, well, you mean in terms of closing or
Yeah. I mean, you're good at it, or you feel you're
yeah,
good
you
at it.
so a lot of it is there are especially business to business, much different than business to consumer. There's a lot of dynamics going on at the company. Um, People that you may have not even met before that have a say that totally blindside you. Um, so I've learned from experience in that aspect and uh, being proactive about that, figuring out who really does have the say here. And I also say, and part of this it came from your book, um, the technical user when doing a demo, how valuable they are to the process. I mean, I teach my reps that it seems like at first that guy you don't really have to worry about. He's not the guy that set up the demo. They just kind of put you with him to get it done or whatever. But that guy can sell to his boss better than you can sell to his boss. So
If he's the
um,
user, his opinion might matter.
exactly, the boss is going to say, "Hey, should we buy this?" And he's either going to say, no, it's worthless, or no, this thing is awesome. So he has a lot of say. I've learned, and that definitely helps in the closing process because all the decision maker needs to do is ask his ask his technical
Yeah.
user, his technician, and if it is aligned with what I'm saying, then everything's good. So
Because who usually goes against you? Either slows it down or doesn't want to buy your particular solution or favors a different way of doing it. Is that role a typical position in your sale?
correct. The
Yeah.
technical user in my industry at least is uh, typically someone that can hold up the sale. Uh, the product itself it's a battery reconditioning machine. And so for decades, these people have been doing it manually, and this product automates the whole entire process for them.
Okay.
So there's an aspect of it, it's kind of taken their job a little bit. And, um, nobody knows more about batteries than I do. So I don't
Yeah.
like this product. I don't like this guy. Dealing with that whole dynamic can be tough with the technical user. So they at least need to be okay. I've found.
Neutral. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, neutral.
And have you become skilled at that, either neutralizing them or pulling them onto your side? Because that is a classic,
Mm.
disruptor sale. You're
Oh yeah.
disrupting somebody's lifestyle and workflow, regardless of how much
Yeah, I
better it
like
is
to
for the company.
yeah, and they go home, they tell their wife, this kid came in and tried to sell me this product. And yeah, I like to think I've gotten better at it. The At first I found myself getting into kind of an argument
Argument.
with this
Yeah.
guy, almost where I'm saying something he doesn't agree with, and we're going back and forth. But now I've learned to uh, a lot of these guys are much older than me, and that's okay. And they've been doing this for longer. I've learned to kind of humble myself and let them teach me.
Yeah.
maybe I don't even agree with what they're teaching me, but to be
Hear
curious
them.
and ask them questions, they actually find a lot of like that gains their trust a lot when you're
Yeah.
uh, just able to learn from them. They like that.
And is it
It
really
softens
taking their
them a lot.
job, or is it just really a different way to do their job?
No, it's not. It's a different way to do their
Yeah.
job. But of course, when I come in,
Change.
they see it as yeah, change, big change. Uh, but when we come in, it at first it may seem like oh, we're trying to steal your job and but no, somebody still needs to run the unit. Somebody needs to analyze the reports, send them off, set the tests up. So yeah, it's just big change. They're not used to being on a computer all day, things like that.
And at first, did you try and sounds like you tried to reason with them that this is a logically better way of doing, which it is, but it doesn't mean that they're going to go with it, right? They're emotionally
Yeah.
attached to 20 years of doing it their way,
Yeah, I'm trying to change their mind that my way is better than your way at first, but and now it's more of a let me learn more about your
your
way
way,
and see how my way can
augmented.
maybe complement or yeah, just totally imitate your way. And
Yeah.
you're setting it up, you're doing all of it. So getting them involved in that has value as well.
Well, I think this is one of the things that people don't understand about top-down selling. They think that top-down is great because Mr. Big Cheese is going to tell the little peons what to do. But that doesn't
Yeah.
really happen today. Mr. Big
No.
Cheese just wants things to work.
Yeah, and they don't want to make their people angry.
Right.
Um,
We don't want
so
Joe to leave.
especially
I don't know what he does,
yeah,
but it must be important.
yeah. Sometimes, yeah, selling top up is we do both. Um, yeah, sometimes that technical user has worked at a place before that had this machine and they work at a new place now and they're trying to sell their boss. And so all we have to do is get that guy on the phone and try to convince him as well. But then yeah, the other way is top down, and that's where you have that tension with the technical user.
And who becomes the champion of this sale? What's their
You mean like
title?
their title?
Yeah.
Typically, operations directors,
Okay.
operations people. Um, Most times the CEO has to sign off on it
Sure. Because
or
it's probably big
something like
dollar,
that,
right?
but correct. And but yeah, mostly the operations manager is the champion that sends it upstairs. So
And what's in it for them? Why do they want it?
well, so depending on who I'm talking to, obviously you have to change your pitch, what's valuable about the machine. So if I'm talking to the operations manager, uh, you're going to save a lot of money in battery expenses. The batteries are going to
Yeah.
last longer. You're going to have to replace them less. So spending millions of dollars less on batteries, and that's a win for him, and uh, he can celebrate that and brag about that internally. But if you're selling to the service guy or the technician even, um, you're not having to babysit this battery every 15 minutes and you're not having to write down cell voltages on a dirty piece of paper every
Yeah.
15, 30 minutes. So how can it make whoever I'm talking to's life easier? Because the the technician, the service guy, he doesn't care if the company saves money.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
he
his
doesn't see
personal.
he doesn't see the checkbook or anything like that. So he just cares about throughput. How's it going to make my life better?
Yeah. And what slows down the deal other than the naysayer? Is it just trying to get the money allocated, trying to make it a priority? Because I can see this, it makes logical sense, but the timing just might not be right.
Yeah, a lot of the holdups are just urgency.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, but we already have a process and we're profitable.
Yeah. We're
So,
okay. But yeah.
just kind of creating that urgency is kind of challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but that and it gets stuck up top again, maybe with someone I've never talked to before and I wasn't aware about that had to say. Uh, so now I kind of need to start all over again with this guy and get his contact information and try to get him on the phone. 12 tries later, get him on the phone. He's like, all right, I'll think about it. But I've already traveled to their state. I've done the demo. It's all there in their hands. And so stuff like that can hold it up for sure.
Yeah. Have you found any way of keeping the deal moving, create urgency when there isn't enough?
So I like to uh, use competition,
Yeah,
our industry material handling, so forklifts and pallet jacks, things like that, is somewhat competitive. Um, and if they find out that I'm doing a demo or talking to the company down the street uh, about this, that typically, you know, puts a little pep in their step because
yep,
they don't want to be behind the ball. Um, so that's a strategy that we found success with, especially when you're there in person. They always ask you, who are you gonna go see? Who are you gonna go see next? And I already know, I've already researched who
the
probably
competitors
their
are.
biggest competitor is, and I'm like, oh, just heading over there. They're interested in this and this.
Yeah, I
So
hear they're on fire. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what sales characteristic do you wish you were better at?
Hmm. Sometimes when I lose, don't like losing. But when I lose, I'll take it pretty personal,
Yeah.
and I'll let it stick with me for an evening or two. And I wish I could just shake that off and keep moving forward better than I do. I would say I've gotten better at that over the past 5 years or so, but um,
Uh,
it's still something that gets me. If I get,
yeah.
a big account that would be pretty impressive to say we have as a customer, and it falls through because of something that is or isn't out of my control. Yeah, it's tough to not take that personal.
And what affects you negatively? Is it the beating yourself up? Is it just getting depressed? Is it kind of wondering what you could have done better? Or
Uh, Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of beating myself up, and then also a little bit of, man, if I could start that all over again, I would have said this differently, or I would have made this feature way more clear from the beginning, or I would have gotten in contact with this person when I was there in person and met him. Uh, so yeah, that
yeah.
exactly beating myself up, I would say.
But do you think it's something you either said or didn't say, or is it something you didn't do that you should have done?
Both.
Yeah. Because I think everyone in sales puts everything on what they say.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, isn't it something you didn't do? Or someone you didn't talk to? Or somebody that you kind of skated with that you should have really worked on? Were you
yeah,
overconfident or underconfident? Were you,
exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of times it's something you didn't do. A guy um you you knew about, but you underestimated. Um, and yeah, maybe I should have tried to bond more with him or find some common ground in something unrelated to work.
yeah.
So exactly what you said. It's more so stuff that I didn't do. Very rarely am I beating myself up for how I said something or what I
And
didn't say.
are you able to boil it down to a thing? Or is it the timing wasn't right? Because there's certain things that you do have control over, right?
Hmm.
Who you meet, what you do with them, next meetings and stuff. And then there's stuff that you don't, right? You get these
Yeah.
even keeled accounts that are laggards
Hmm.
and they like a paper process. They like Joe doing it by hand, or they
Yeah.
don't care. There's
Yeah.
no active pain.
Hmm.
Makes perfect sense, makes economic sense. No one's arguing with you, but no
Yeah.
one's buying either.
Hmm.
Do, do you see that a lot?
Yeah. I mean, they have the money to do it. They
That's my
have the
market.
products to to do it.
That's my ideal
Uh,
customer profile.
yeah. So yeah, completely qualified customer. Um, and they just uh, they're stuck in their ways
Yeah.
of doing things. And so yeah, like I said, finding competitors is important. The things that could be out of your control though would be, and this is really specific to our industry, but maybe their power in their building isn't suitable.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe they
that's
don't
true.
have the volume. Um, they wouldn't be qualified if they don't have the volume to support something like this, or the general battery knowledge to support something like this. Things like
Be-
that are kind of out of our control.
Because that kind of needs to be built into your qualification model, right? Because even though let's say it's inbound, but it's a
Mhm.
laggard building that probably doesn't support the power. The guy's retiring in 6 months, the owner.
Yep, yep.
So it's kind of like, well, they're interested, but they're not going to buy. It's just that
Yeah.
the dynamics there aren't lined up
Or they have blueprints for a new building, so they can't buy until they have a new building. But the new buildings, they didn't
3 years
break
out.
ground, and it's 3, 4, 5 years out. And so that's kind of their excuse. And so yeah, I always tell my reps too, and myself, that when you get an objection like that, there's some keep digging, because there's another concern there that you don't he doesn't want to say, maybe he doesn't want to offend you, or something like that. So just straight up asking, you
Sure.
know, I know everything sounds good. We're waiting on the building. What are the concerns that you have at this point?
Yeah. When are you moving
Usually you can
into
get
the
a
building?
lot out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we're thinking 2035. Yeah.
And when you moved into leadership, how was that for you? Was that a natural progression or was it awkward?
That's a good question, actually. I find fulfillment in closing deals and just worrying about myself and the number that I would put up. Um, and so very awkward for me to move into a more of a managerial position, um, and now being responsible for how other people do. And I if one of their deals is stuck, every part of my being wants to just call the guy directly and get in
Exit.
there.
Yeah.
But they're not, that's not going to help anyone. I mean, it would help some, but in the long term, it's not going to help anyone get better. So yeah, part of me, and I still do a lot of direct selling, but part of me misses that being the only responsibility is, uh, how many units did you sell this month, or what was the dollar amount this month or quarter? So yeah, it's definitely a little strange.
And what mystifies you about salespeople? That
Hmm.
because when you become a manager, you start to see other people's deals. They look easy, don't they? Because they're not yours. You're not in them. You're not emotionally
Yeah, yeah,
attached to them. You're not vested.
yeah.
You can see like,
So you mean like their personality traits or something like
well,
that?
either they're like way too optimistic about it
Mm.
or trying to beat a dead cat. They're just trying to get life out of something that there's no life in.
Yeah, exactly. Usually, I say a good salesperson, um, they know, uh, to the average person getting out of a meeting, it might seem like that went great. Um, but a good salesperson, you ask them, how do you think that went? And they're like, man, that I don't think it went well. This guy had that look on his face. And um, so that's always interesting, that they're always socially aware. I think most salespeople have good social skills. They don't necessarily have to be an extrovert. I'm not an extrovert. I have to flip the switch in the morning when I come in and relax at night. But uh, yeah, they're always socially aware, and then sometimes even the good ones aren't the most organized people, so that's always interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they didn't become salespeople because they were great
no,
administrators.
no, no. Especially, yeah, you're out on the road, that
Right.
you
And they
have to
don't
follow
have
up on the
time to
same
do it.
email
Yeah.
7 times. Yeah, like, I'll say, or I'll do that. I'll do that.
And
But yeah, they're
What,
focused on the deal, so they're not.
yeah. And what characteristic would you encourage salespeople to learn the most about, even if they're good at it today?
Um, I would say the ability to custom tailor your pitch to whoever you're talking to at the company.
Yeah.
That is a very valuable skill to have, even if, like you said, even if you're already decent at it, being able to just read people, um,
Yes.
and without them telling you, knowing, kind of having a good guess or sense of what their say might be in the deal or what their real role is at the company, even though their title is technician or something, and being able to on the fly adjust to that.
Yeah, because I think that reading people and that customizing your pitch to them requires you to think like them,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
forces
And
you
it
to
put,
think.
get yourself in their shoes. Okay,
Yeah,
what does this guy do all day?
right.
Who does he report to?
What
What kind
lights
of
him up?
KPIs do you think he has? Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I
So,
really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
uh, LinkedIn, my name is Dustin Love. That's a good place. So yeah, DustinLove. And the company is FSIP Electronics. So yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on today. Definitely fun. Was looking forward to it.